Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi
Morning,
Colin,
Colin.
good morning to you. All right, let's see if we are on the live stream services as well, and let's get started. Okay, that's it. All right, guys, as most of you already know, but the guys on the live stream do not know, we are Victor and Miguel from the Guitar Zoom Academy. We are two of the 8 instructors over there. And what we do over here in these free live lessons is practically very similar to what we do in the academy, with the difference that the academy has the advantage of having a much more personalized path created for you, working with all of the instructors and getting assessment from all of them, visiting live classes, open rooms like Q&A sessions, one-on-one time with the instructors, etc., etc. So if you're interested, you can click on this link that I'm leaving in the chat section to book your first call with the academy. And yeah, let's begin. Miguel, what's today's subject?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the minor pentatonic scale. We're going to be focusing on the first position, and which is probably the one you know and the one that you have been playing the most. It's very common. We all start there, and how to get out of that box one, how to start sneaking into position 2, maybe position 5. We have different ways to expand on that minor pentatonic. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. So maybe let's just start with refreshing the memory, and for those who might not know this first position, we can start playing it here in A minor. So we're gonna play here this 5th fret, 6th string. We're gonna call this fret 5. Then we have fret 8 on the same string, right? Then we're gonna switch to the 5th string. We're gonna play 5, 7, and here it's probably why this position it's so much easy to play than the other ones. That is very symmetrical. We have this 5, 7, then 5, 7, 5, 7 on the strings, 5th, 4th, and 3rd string. So we start with a 5, 8, then 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, and the next 2 strings are just like the first one. So 5, 8, and 5, 8. And that's our pattern for this minor pentatonic scale. So again, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, and 5, 8. And we have here a root on the first note. So here on the 5th and the 1st string. That might be also one of the reasons this pattern is so popular, because the first note is the root, comparing to other patterns. For example, pattern 2, we start on the 3rd, if we're thinking of a minor pentatonic. So having that root on the first note already set us in a good position for the key, for the visualization of the fretboard, and all that. So how can we get out of here? So we might be used to playing solos. Maybe we know a couple of licks. When we put a backing track, an A minor backing track, we go here. So how do we get out of there? So I would recommend you check the patterns that are next to this first position. So we're gonna check the pattern number 2, which we're gonna see now in a second, and pattern number 5. So that will allow us to, add a couple of notes either on this side, so going up, or going down the fretboard. And we don't need to add, all the notes in the position 5 or all the notes in position 2. Just with adding a couple, we're gonna get, more. Because actually, both of these patterns share most of the notes. For example, if I played pattern 1 from the second note and pattern 2, see, it's the same exact notes, just in a different place. So when we play pattern 2, we're actually adding just one note above. And same thing with when we go to pattern 5, we're just adding just one note in the low side of the pattern. So I like to add exactly those notes to my pattern 1. Add here my low notes, and here my high notes of the second pattern. So let's check that pattern number 2. So pattern number 2, we can start here with the second finger, 8th fret. So you'll see that it's actually the end of pattern 1 will be the first note of the next position. So all the notes that are kind of in this side of the pattern will be shared with the pattern 2. So here we have 8, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10, and 8, 10. So again, look, I would recommend you to look for those symmetric patterns and the strings that you have a repeated pattern. For example, here in the second pattern, you have that here, 8, 10, 8, 10. For example, here, you also have a repeated pattern. So first I will get used to playing those two patterns, especially if you already been working on pattern 1, maybe focus this week on learning pattern 2. So play, up and down, try to improvise with it. So you get used to visualize it and to see how it connects to the pattern 1. Then an exercise that I will recommend you to try will be to connect both of the patterns. And there are different ways to connect them. There's one that I personally use a lot, and not only me, I think most of guitar players connect these two patterns kind of in a similar way. That is through the third string. And it's especially going to those symmetric patterns of the position number 2. So we can start playing on the pattern 1. And when we get to the third string, I'm going to slide there 2 frets. So from here, from fret 7, I'm going to fret 9. So And by doing that, here I'm in position 1, and here I'm already thinking on position 2. And I can play that the end of position 2, and I can do the same on the way back. So from here, from 7, I can slide to fret 5. So this is kind of a new pattern, let's say a combination between pattern 1 and pattern 2, and it also creates this kind of a diagonal shape, because we are covering more frets than just 4 frets that we usually have in a pentatonic position. So again, if I start here, I have to focus here on the 3rd string, slide in there 2 frets. And I would recommend you to practice that connection. So you can get used to that shift, and being used to visualize, when you move here, in your head you should see, clearly this pattern too. And again, we're just adding this note, because this note, we already have it in pattern 1. So we're just adding this, but we're not only adding, one note, we're adding a new fingering, having this, for example, that slide, that possibility of playing a slide. We don't have it if we are only playing the position number 1 here, because we have that note on a different string. So, but by connecting these 2 patterns, we have now that possibility, so to play a slide there. So we're not just adding, a single note. We're adding these new possibilities of playing, different techniques. So slides, hammer-ons, that having those 2 notes on different strings, it gives us different possibilities. So it's not that one is better than the other one. We have other options. So how are we doing so far, guys? Do you have any questions? You feel free to drop them in the chat. If you have any questions.
You can also unmute yourselves and ask a question.
I see some thumbs up from Colin.
Also, you guys watching us on YouTube, you can, if you have any questions, you can just post them in the chat section.
Good. Great. So, you have anything to add to that, Victor, so far?
Yeah, I would just like to to give a quick recap of all being said so far. So basically, what the pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale. It's when we're talking about, when we say pentatonic, us guitar players, what we usually mean is the minor pentatonic scale. Okay, now the A minor pentatonic scale, we take that as the first go-to pentatonic scale. First of all, because it is very easy to play over here. Your frets are neither too wide nor too narrow as up here. It is just the right amount. Okay. Second of all, many thousands of songs use this particular key and this scale. That mostly has to do with how the guitar is tuned, because when you play chords with open strings, very often you are playing in the keys of E, A, D, or G. Okay, so because very often you will have songs like this, whatever, this is the scale that works for that, okay? Now, the pentatonic scale is of course, as we all know it, it's a 5-note scale. It is sort of like a derivative form of the diatonic minor scale. It is just missing some of the notes. So this one comes from the A minor scale, so to say, with the 2nd and the 6th excluded from the scale. So it only has a root, of course, and then a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th octave. There is no 2nd and there is no 6th in this scale, okay? And that's another one reason why it is so useful for many different situations, okay? Because you can use the pentatonic scale as a substitute for a diatonic minor, for a Dorian mode, for a Phrygian mode, okay? And for a harmonic and melodic minor as well, because it is the notes that it is missing, which are the 2nd and the 6th, are the notes that are changing in these modes, okay? I'm not gonna go too deep in that subject today. When we're gonna talk about modes, that's when I'm gonna...
Trader was 5 years dead. His
more.
dreams of escape and new beginnings buried with him in the mountain soil.
Arthur?
But
sorry, I muted you. There was something coming from your PC. Anyway, so because the pentatonic scale has 5 notes, that means
the
that
story of her betrayal and survival had become...
Okay. That means that we can...
Documentary.
Yeah. We can play
What could
this
happen
scale
when a woman refused to accept the destruction that others planned for her?
Can you please mute yourself?
Some versions painted her as a victim saved by a heroic mountain man. Others as a calculating woman.
Okay. Should be all right now. Okay. I was saying, yeah. Because the pentatonic scale has 5 notes inside of it, that means that you can start the scale on any of these 5 notes, okay? So if the pentatonic scale has the A minor in particular, A, C, D, E, and G, and then A again, if I play it like this, on one string only, on the 6th string, A, C, D, E, and G, that's the scale, okay? In a more horizontal way. Now I can start that scale with any of the 5 notes, and that's how we are creating the 5 different positions of the scale. And this can even help you understand how modes work, okay? Because the modes of the diatonic scale are basically all of the different ways you can play the diatonic scale, starting with each of the 7 notes of the diatonic scale as a root note, as a new root, okay? So this is basically uses the same method. So this is A minor pentatonic, A, C, D, E, G, and so on, repeatedly, okay? Now, if I start with the 2nd note, which was the C note, and go on, play the same note, C, D, E, G, and again, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, and so on. That's my 2nd position here. Now if I start with the D note, I'm going up to the 3rd position now. The 4th position, I'm just running through them now. You don't have to remember all of this. We'll dive deeper one by one. And this is the 5th position, starting of course with the 5th note of the scale, which is the G note, okay? Now, as Miguel already said, it is very helpful when you visualize on your fretboard that you see, the pentatonic scale has 2 notes per string in all of its 5 positions, okay? So, every time the 2nd note of the previous position is gonna be the 1st note for the next position. Do you understand what I'm saying? So here we go. This was the 1st position. Remember each 2nd note that I'm playing on all of the strings, okay? So I have 8, 7, 7, 7, 8, 8. Now over here for the 2nd position, I'm gonna start with these frets, okay? 8, 7, 7, 8, 7, 8, 8. Now, the second notes of this position are gonna be my first notes of the next position, and so on, okay? And then when I reach the final, I can also go one octave below and play that here, the fifth position. And you will see that each second note was on the fifth fret, which is where the first position of the pentatonic scale starts. Everything on the fifth fret. All right? Does this make sense to you guys? And do you have any questions?
Let's see.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't see any questions also in YouTube. All good. Okay.
Your TV is on, says.
Yeah.
It was not us, Sam. It was one of the participants over here. Okay. Now the next step would be, because the positions of the scale are just positions. It's not like you're gonna, each time you're gonna play actual music, it's not like you're just gonna run up and down the scale positions, right? That's not music, that's practicing. So the idea is to use the scale notes in a stylized fashion, okay? So you can try and think of it as creating licks out of the position, okay? So for instance, if we take, let's say I'm gonna take the second position now. These are the notes, but that means that I can just use the notes to create melodies. I can jump from here up here, and then something like that, or I can do a sequence like, and then with slides or whatever. And always keep in mind that us guitar players have our own set of particular techniques that give certain character and embellishment to our playing, because running up and down the scale and playing single notes just like that is fine up until a certain point, but you also want to add some slides in there, some bendings, hammer-ons and pull-offs, stuff like that, okay? Just something to think about.
Right, I think it's cool to, for example, you can just take one string, for example. So you're pattern 1, and just add the next note of the next pattern. So it's like you're just extending a little bit the pattern 1 by playing the next note from the next pattern. So you have there those 2 frets. You're already adding, a little something to this box 1, and again, as Victor said, that allows you to play some slide to reach that note. To reach that note, you can also, you have that possibility of a bend, and you can try that with all these strings. So second string, the next note will be there. So you have the same possibilities. You slide. So now it's not that you're just playing, for example, a band. Maybe you already played this band many times in this position, but to me it's interesting to know that when you're bending here, you're actually playing this note. That would be, you can think it as the next note of the next pattern, or you can think it as the next note of the same pattern. But so it's not just a bend, you're actually reaching, a different note. Here the same thing. You have that note that you can bend. So you have different possibilities. You can go to the next pattern and go back. Create your own licks. And I think that's the best way to practice this with an actual, a backing track, improvise, play around with that, mixing both positions. Now we'll be checking, the position going up, but same thing going down. So the position number 5 is also, very easy kind of to visualize and because it's very symmetrical. You have this 3-5, 3-5, then 2-5, 2-5, 3-5, 3-5. And again, as Victor mentioned earlier, every second note is the first note of each string of the first pattern. So you have all these notes that are shared between both patterns. And I like, again, to look at these symmetrical boxes that appears in the shape of the pattern. Why? Because those are easier to play. You have the same fingering for both. So for me, that's a good place, to transition between both patterns. And see, we have this kind of 2 fret separation between these notes. And when I go here, I have to change my finger because I have a longer distance. But what if I, instead of going there, I switch to the previous pattern? So I'll go there. So now I can keep, for example, that same symmetrical pattern of playing with just 1 fret in between. Now I'm playing here the beginning of position 5, and I'm sliding 2 frets from 5 to 7. Now I'm pattern 1, and the same thing going down. So on the 5th string, fret 5, can slide to fret 3 and play the end of position 5. And then you can actually connect all 3 of those positions with this slide that we saw to connect position 1 with 2 and position 5 with 1. So you get something like from 5 to 1. Now in the 3rd string, connecting to the 2nd position. And now you get a pretty good, diagonal pattern for connecting 3 of this vertical pattern, these boxes. Now we got and it's quite simple to play because of the fingering. We're always playing with these 2 fingers, so 1 and 3, and always this separation of just 1 fret. And we can achieve that by moving from one position to the other with this slide. Cool. Any other questions? I see we have a couple of questions apparently on YouTube. So, who is your favorite guitarist of all time and why? Wow, that's a interesting question. And what is the most used part of musical theory and chord progressions for creating rock music? Interesting.
Well, this is one of the first go-to things, the minor pentatonic scale.
Exactly. That's very, very much used and abuse, you could say, in rock
Yes.
music.
And in terms of chord progressions, well, basically the chord progressions that come from the pentatonic scale. So if you take all of the notes of the pentatonic scale as root notes for chords, chord progressions that have the chords A, C, D, E, and G are the most typical in rock music. Whatever. Okay?
Right. Also, if you think about intervals, the intervals you get, for example, by playing, two strings of or different notes of the pentatonic scale, you get a lot of this. This is a fourth. It's a pattern that, an interval that you hear a lot in rock music. So that's also, some harmony, or you can come up with chord progressions out of those intervals as well that are pretty much used and that are derived from the pentatonic scale. Cool, guys. So, any other questions about this? When I play bends, these guitars, I go out of tune immediately.
It is also very useful to be able to play the scale vertically on each string, okay? So if I start here, let's say, as I showed you before, that was my A minor pentatonic only on the 6th string, okay? Now, this is the A minor pentatonic on the 5th string. You should be able to create licks only on one string, okay? Because that's how you connect between positions. So for instance, I'm just gonna play it all over now on all of the strings. So if I start using all of the notes available on the D string, and do you see how different it gives me different ideas for improvising when I play on different strings, because I have different gaps from one note to the other on different frets, and it is sort of forcing me to play in a different fashion, okay? So what I played over here was something like, over here I did something more of a, I don't even know why. It is just a personal, a matter of taste or habit or whatever it is. But everybody should find his own. You know what I'm saying? Now we're here on the G string. On the G string, I can also add some bends that are not as easy to do on the D string. At least not a full or a 1.5 step bend. Okay, here it is on the 2nd string. Okay, the 1st string is gonna be the same as the 6th string, of course, in standard tuning. Okay, so, but anyway, that's how you connect, that's how you jump from one position to the next one, because if you see how I jumped now from position number 1 to position number 4 with ease, because if I know that this note belongs in the 4th position, then everything else will fall in its place and will come together, okay?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of key to find those connecting points. Because I see with students that sometimes something that happens is that they are playing in one position. It's all great, and they want to play in position 2, and they just move from one position to the other, but without being able to connect those two patterns. So having those connecting points, like for example this one that we show you in the third string, will allow you to to transition from one pattern to the other more smoothly, and now we check that on pattern 1 to pattern 2 and pattern 1 to pattern 5, but that's something that then you can work on every pattern. So from pattern 1 to pattern 2 to 1, and from 2 to 3, 3 to 2, 3 to 4. It's always good to do that, so connect it to the next pattern, to the previous one, so you have more possibilities to go either way. So then I would recommend you to practice this with a with a backing track. It can be a blues backing track, a rock, or any A minor backing track. And I will insist a lot on those connections. So for example, let's say you're trying this one on the third string. So I'll show you a little bit how I will practice it. This, so for example, this is a backing track in A minor. So I will focus on that specific transition. You see, I'm insisting a lot. For example, then you can do the same thing, but let's say instead of transitioning on the third string, maybe on the second string. So you can try also patterns of sequences and see how they fit. You might have to figure out a fingering, something that you might be used to playing in one position, things like that. What if we try to play that by connecting both positions? Right, so you have that connection. All these kind of patterns that maybe you already practice in one vertical position, you can try them with all these different connections. So that's one way that you can practice and apply these concepts, in your playing, your soloing. Let's see. Any more questions? How you practice this? Yeah, sorry.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm scrolling through. I should be on my laptop, but I'm on my phone trying to get through here. Yeah, like in the 80s, it's like I was learning like the 5 positions, and all I had was, remember Doug Mark's Metal Method. Like in the middle of the 80s, and I got so angry at that scale. It's so tired of it because, it's like, yeah, the first falls to fifth and so forth and so forth. But I'm looking down going, all of these notes and all 5 of these patterns. And then when I'm in one, I'm supposed to remember which one's behind me and which one's in front of me. And I would get so angry and so mad at it. And I'm at, like, I got a few of the patterns and like I can see them in my head and that's when I realized, oh yeah, once you can see them in your head, then you can at least play them. What you can do with them might be a different story, but you can play them. And then I learned them vertically, like you were showing, and then I thought, oh, this is great right here. Why did somebody show it to me this way first? At least I could have some fun with them. Because I wanted the 3-note scales, I wanted the Megadeth and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted the metal, so I wanted all the 3-note Dorian stuff and all that. And so, but I still, there's probably like at least two patterns or something that I need out of the Pentatonic. I'm probably gonna go back and grab them, but I didn't even notice till I started playing again that when I can see them in my mind's eye is when I can grab the guitar and at least go through them, or on any string I pretty much can see them in my head. You know what I mean? What's next? What's forward? What's behind? But not so much what's behind. I still have a problem connecting them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I do
definitely.
have a suggestion.
Yeah.
And this is something that I was going to talk about next anyway. So,
Okay.
I have 2 more things I want to add today, okay? One of them is always be aware of where your root notes are, okay? So, no matter which position you are playing in, okay? So, the first position, this is the root note, this is the A note, right? So, A, another A. These are my root notes. So I always want to be able to tell where my root note is so that I can land there no matter what I do. Okay, and resolve back to the root. At least I'm not saying that any musical phrase or solo or whatever will always resolve back to the root note, okay? It is just a good starting point, because once you get that down, and then maybe next you can think of where the 5th is as an interval, because that's also a chord note, okay? If the chord is A, power chord, what do I have here? A and E, right? So I can also land on an E note when the chord is an A. But I'm just saying that the best starting point is to focus on the root notes. Do you understand what I mean, Don?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
It's one.
Yeah.
It's the tonic, the tonic, the one you kind of start on,
the tonic.
Yeah.
Yes. Now also in all of the next positions, it is fine to look at them as positions all over the strings, right? Starting on the 6th string and all of the notes that you have available in this region here, okay? But also be aware of where your root note is, where the scale is actually starting, because over here I have C, D, E, G, and then an A note. So that means that this is where my actual scale starts. A, C, D, E, G, A. Because as you can see here, what I have over here is just an octave above the first position. Okay? A, C, D, E, G, A. A, C, D, E, G, A. Okay?
Yeah.
And then next, focus on all of the root notes. So A, okay? Now in this position, for instance, the 3rd position, root, and so on.
Yeah.
Over here, for instance, root, and now you can see in the 4th position, the 4th position is basically a 5th string root pentatonic scale. Okay, because if I exclude the 6th string, let me change my camera angle so that you can see a close-up of the fretboard. Okay, is that better? Here we go. This is what I mean. The 4th position looks like this. if I just exclude the 6th string and start the scale with the actual A note on the 5th string, because the 5th string, empty 5th string is A, right? So the 12th fret is also an A note. So A, C, D, E, G, A. So this is just the same box. And this up here is actually nothing but a pentatonic scale with a 5th string root. Just as we can have a chord with a 6th string root, a bar chord, and then with a 5th string root. Okay, A minor, A minor. Well, A minor pentatonic scale, A minor pentatonic scale. Okay?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I get the concept, but you know, man, I don't have it down like that, you know. Yeah, I get the concept, but like if I land on if I land on the same route as say you did in A on the first on pattern 1, and I find myself on another A, what is there options to which pattern I can grab?
Can you repeat the question? What do you
Like
mean? You start with pattern 1, this one,
yeah, up on the 5th
and then
fret.
you land on this one?
Yeah, if I land on another A, is there
Yes.
options to which pattern I can choose, or
Whichever, because this is one option, okay?
yeah,
Landing on the first octave on the second A note, and then from here I can start and move up to the second position, or I can even do, I mean, this note connects to the second position, okay? But I can also do a bigger slide and reach a different position up there or below. Okay?
yeah. And then Doug Marks taught me back in the day to always throw the flat 5 in there, and I run around for years saying flat 5, flat 5. I didn't even know what the hell I was talking about. But,
Yes. Well, that's in other
is that
words
kind of blues or
the
what?
blue
What is
note.
that?
Yes.
Right.
But it is also used quite a lot in hard and heavy music because, but I mean, 90% of Black Sabbath uses the blue
Yeah.
note. Either as that dark tritone devil's interval, like that,
Yeah.
or as a bluesy kind of a like stuff like that, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I answering your question?
Oh yeah. It's just you know, you can find if you can find the roots, but the weird part is when you're messing around, say like in pattern 1, and you're like bending some stuff and doing vibratos or whatever you might be doing, and then you're thinking of going up the neck to the next pattern.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get crippled not knowing exactly where this is gonna lead to, you know.
Yeah,
Draw a
but
blank.
this leads me to the next thing I wanted to say, and I believe that it will be helpful to you and
Okay.
all of you guys out there, okay?
Yeah.
In order to be able to learn how to improvise, how to play your own solos, first you need to learn other people's solos, of course. Just as with talking, nobody invented their own language and syntax and grammar or whatever. When we speak as adults, we are all saying our own original sentences, right? But they come from combining what we already heard throughout our lives. So it is the same with music. Learn other people's licks and solos and then analyze them. For instance, when you learn whatever, let's say whoever's solo, okay? Just try to analyze and see what scale is he using, which position is he using, which position is he jumping up to or down to or whatever. Analyze it, and that's how you learn how the pros use the scales, okay? If we're talking about scales in this particular moment, of course. So, and then try and make it your own, okay? If you grab a lick from a solo that you like, then try and put on a backing track that is in a different key, in a different rhythm, with a different feel, whatever, and just transpose that lick, change something about its rhythmical values, and the style that is, let's say that you have a lick that sounds like this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And now you want to play that in a shuffle beat in the key of G with a more soft tone. And it's already your own. I played the same lick twice with a different approach, with a different stylistic embellishment, but it was the same melody, okay? The first one was, and then here. Do you
Yeah.
understand what I mean? Now this is
Well,
a
yeah,
very
no one's
short and
born
very
up.
simple lick, but if you take a whole solo that you like, imagine how many things you can just get out of that. And that's not stealing, that's not copying,
No,
because you're
everybody
changing
does that.
something about it and making it your
Yeah.
own.
Because
Okay?
otherwise, we'd have to be on a desert island. Everybody's taken.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like you
Of
can look
course.
on a lot of songs and hear other songs from way back that influence that band. You know what I mean? If you really listen, you go, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but as far as like I would just have books of licks and licks, right? And they were like, gee, I remember he was trying back in the day, trying to explain to me how to keep them organized, and I could never figure out how in the world people keep all of those licks. I mean, pages and pages organized in your head, like you know.
Yeah, I think that you don't, because you play them. You can play, I don't know, a book of 100 licks. So you will play all those 100 licks. You can spend days learning them. But I think actually the goal, well, at least to me, is it's not to learn them, note by note. So
Yeah.
then, okay, I want to use lick 47 of the book, and I don't know, maybe the lick was that. And the idea is that you will play it and practice it, play it, so much that then that will be part of your vocabulary. That's as Victor said, that analogy with language. Maybe you learn how to say, I know, hello, my name is Miguel, how are you? Then you learn that kind of pre-made phrase, but then you use it so much that then you can say, instead of hello, my name is Miguel, how are you?
What's up?
You say, hey, I'm Miguel, how are you doing? And you're saying
Yeah.
the same exact thing, but in your way. So maybe
Right.
you learn this, and now I don't know, you play this so much that then you play. You see, and for me, that's the goal of learning licks, learning solos. You transpose them, you play them, you turn it around, and yeah,
Well, I've
because
known some guys. I've
sorry,
known some guys that graduated from GIT, and I never asked them. And I know some professional musicians that played in Chicago. I never asked them either. But the one Doug Marks back in the day was like I don't know, he was like saying, I think that he kept them organized by, I don't know whether it's fret or whatever, but whatever you're saying, I
Hmm.
like better because, dude, you know, trying to memorize 450 licks, you know what I mean, in every key. I mean, I don't know. I think they
Yeah,
just become part of you, right?
exactly. For me, that's the goal. And then I don't know, out of, let's say, 100 licks, you will probably like, I don't know, 10 or 5 or 3 that you will
Yeah.
really learn, and that they will come out in your solos all the time. And that's normal, and that's part of creating kind of your own language. and
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's how it is. What I
Well, that's a
think it's
lot
important.
relieving. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
think to try to think the other way, especially when I was a kid, it was way overwhelming. It's like looking at all this stuff from Doug Marks, and you're going, you mean to tell me these metal licks, I'm gonna have to, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like shit. Fill the book and like forget it, you know. But then
yeah,
I come back years later. But I mean, it's yeah, the way you describe is a lot better.
yeah. Also, because then when you're improvising, you don't want to be like a book of licks.
Yeah.
Playing one lick after the other, exactly how it was written in the book. You want to be able to transform them and modify
Yeah.
them and connect them.
Because then it sounds mechanical, like you're playing scales, kind of like same kind of idea. You're just mechanical sounding. Yeah,
Right.
I don't want nothing mechanical sounding. I'm digging it.
And you know how I was thinking of learning solos, and it's different to just play a solo, kind of note by note, playing it with the recording, that taking a moment to think, okay, what pattern is he using when he moves and he plays this slide? He's connecting this pattern with this other pattern. So that's a different thought process, and I think you get more out of a solo than just playing it. That it's already a lot. It's a technical challenge. But I don't know, just to give an example, let's say it's Stairway to Heaven, forbidden solo in music stores, but it starts here. So kind of box one, right? Whatever. And then it jumps. Right?
Yeah.
So here, what is he doing? So he's here, box one, A minor, and he's just been here. So if you know, for example, your root, and you're used to the all the patterns of pentatonic, well, he's jumping directly to an A. This is an A.
Yeah.
And I have here this pattern. This is pattern 3. So it's different to take a moment, think about that, than just play it. And then he's moving to another position now. So here, pattern 4.
Yeah.
So he's connecting from pattern 1, all this, the beginning of the solo, this lick in pattern 3, connecting to pattern 4, and then continue. But
yeah, well, like the instructors were slim picking in '86, and nobody from GIT wanted to show you anything because they didn't want you to get any good. It was like a war out there back then. But I was always looking at stuff, and I had them on VHS at one point, and I was like, I was thinking, I wish I should have just learned the patterns and then went on and just left it and just kept doing stuff. But I would get mad because I was always trying to lock them together and then memorize how they lock together and all of that, when I should just memorize the patterns and moved on. That probably would have been a lot better than getting, wanting to throw the guitar across the room because you forgot how to lock it, Or
Absolutely.
like, I'm in pattern 5 here, and then one's up there, and it's like, okay, or down there. One's down there. I was like, okay, and then, and then it would overwhelm me at the time. I don't feel overwhelmed these days by it, but I used to a lot. So
yeah, but it's not uncommon, to start studying and feeling frustrated, feeling stuck. And actually, that lead us to to the end of our session today, and lead us to saying again that this lesson, if you learned something, if you enjoy it, this is a little portion of what we do every day here at the GuitarZoom Academy. We have these kind of conversations, and we have personalized guidance to help you exactly with that. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling frustrated, it's probably because you're liking that guidance, that
let me ask you one question.
Sure.
I got some of Steve's lessons or whatever. I don't know, 5 or 10 of them or something that I just got so long ago. And a lot of people, they're like, okay, the cage method, right? And then you find out where all the intervals are and all that, and then you'll hear someone else say, forget about the cage method. It's better just to learn where the intervals are. Right? You hear that, and then you'll turn around and you'll hear someone say, no, if it wasn't for the cage method, and you're like going, what? And so you get bounced back and forth like a tennis ball between people. But I think you just kind of best just to learn it all, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. Because, each person learned different ways. There are persons that uh, don't want to know anything about theory. There are other persons that are all about theory, and
Yeah.
then at the end, if they choose the right learning method for them, they end up in the same place, and that's the idea. And also it's that also the goal of the GuitarZoom Academy is to give you that personalized experience of, if you're I don't know, a visual learner, you are going to need different things that someone that, I don't know, needs theory or
Yeah.
the other things. So, well, Victor left again the link there in the chat. We're gonna post it also in the chat in YouTube. There we go. And so
Yeah.
go ahead,
We
click
also
on that
have-
link, and it will ask you a couple of questions, to learn a little bit more about your guitar journey, see where you're at, if you're a good fit for the academy. And
Is that
we'll
an
be happy to-
Ibanez S? That's an S, isn't it? A guitar?
This one is an RG.
S. Oh, is that RG?
RG, yes.
Looks pretty
It's
thin.
pretty old. It's kind of, it's I think it's a 20 years old
Yeah.
RG.
I had an RG 750DX, got stolen, so it was old.
Okay, guys, so that will be all for today for Victor and I. So
Yes.
stay tuned. We're giving these lessons every week. On Thursday, we have another one with, I don't know,
I think it's
with other
Luca
instructors.
and, I don't know.
Luca and Juan. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for those. And
There was
we're
also,
looking forward to.
I'm just now seeing the questions on the Facebook live stream as well. There was a question by Adam Rolls saying, can you slide from A minor into another minor scale and combine them fluently? But I believe we already answered this question. I don't know when you typed it 39 minutes ago. So yeah, that's what we already talked about, and that was a good example that Miguel gave with Stairway to Heaven. And then when he jumps up to okay, that's the way you do it. Just land on another scale note, and that's how you switch to a different box. All right, guys, thanks for joining. And I hope to see you again soon. Okay?
That's it. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Victor. Have a good night.